Now, is Huw Williams. He is the national spokesperson for the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association. Huw, glad you could join us. What are you hearing about these reports that Honda might be moving out of Canada?
Marcia, thanks for having me on. These are obviously concerning reports, and we're hyper-focused these days when there's any kind of investment decision talked about or potential changes to that under the tariff umbrella that we're now facing. I think it really points out how important these jobs are to Canadians, but even more so, it points out how bad these tariffs are for the economies of both Canada and the United States, how bad they are for car dealers. We have 170,000 employees across the country. We're facing these reciprocal tariffs and the increased costs in the supply chain. But at the end of the day, who really gets hurt in Canada, the U.S., and of course Mexico is the consumer. So we've got to get the U.S. to the table and drive them towards a proper solution.
You have said that 55,000 CRVs are sold in Canada annually. If this, in fact, turns out to be true, how would this move impact the number of CRVs sold?
Well, in conversations with finance officials, and again, you saw Mr. Carney reference it earlier on, the remissions process has been structured to reward Canadian production. So if you have Canadian production in Canada, you have a certain envelope that you're allowed to import to Canada tariff-free. So I think that the government's tried to be smart. Officials at the Department of Finance have tried to be smart to incentivize investment and understand that we can't put the puck in our own net by retaliating so hard on the U.S. that it hurts us. One of the other ways that we've seen that is on the parts side of the business. Canada did not tariff in response to the U.S. parts, and now we see yesterday the U.S. president kind of hinting at that is the case. I want to give real credit, though, to Premier Ford. There has no premier in the country who has stepped up as much in the U.S. market, delivering the message about how bad these tariffs are for the American and Canadian economy and how much they'll hurt consumers. And I think it's really, really important that he's delivering the message, CNN, Fox, elsewhere, that this is not good for the North American economy.
Huw, I want to put up a statement that we're just getting from Minister Anand, the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, and I want to get your reaction as well. Share this with our viewers. She says, we are aware of the unconfirmed reports of future changes to Honda's production plans for Canada. We are in close contact with the company, and Honda has communicated that no such production decision affecting Canadian operations have been made and are not being considered at this time. Minister Anand will meet with the CEO of Honda Canada later today to discuss further. So we've also been watching for a statement from Honda to hopefully clear this up. In the meantime, we know Japanese officials are going to Washington tomorrow to meet with Trump administration officials to clear up or at least get some clarity on where things stand with tariffs. Can I get your reaction to what we're hearing from our minister and to this ever-changing landscape from Trump, again, as you point out, floating the idea of some sort of auto tariff parts pause?
Yeah, it's a roller coaster coming out of the White House right now. I think, on the Canadian side of the equation, what's really positive is that the Premier picked up the phone, spoke to the president of Honda, and of course you have the federal government now announcing that they're going to be meeting with Honda. At the end of the day, these jobs are multiplier effects in the marketplace. So not only do you have one job, but you have a multiplier of up to 7 to 10 jobs across the overall economy. So the Dealers Association, along with the parts makers and the Manufacturers Association, have worked with the government of Ontario, the government of Quebec, the government of Canada to try to get these investments here. So it's really important to, once those investments are here, to keep them here and be all in on that. I think the other thing that is forgotten in all of this is the importance of being able to promote the Canadian dynamic of an educated workforce, a smart workforce, and one of the most efficient workforces, and we have a highly, highly integrated trade market in automotive.
Final question for you today, and I know that there's a lot of things to worry about, but I do wonder, does it worry you that if one automaker leaves, others could follow suit, that there could be a domino effect?
Well, I think that we're in early days, and again, the White House is announcing changes to parts already, which is good. But to the extent that Canada is being punished more than the rest of the world, 2 weeks ago it looked like we had a better deal than the rest of the world when the rest of the world was getting 25% across the board. Then that's rolled back to 10%. One of the things we have to be smart about is be patient, be smart with the Americans. The Car Dealers Association is actually doing a trade mission down to Washington to explain to lawmakers down there that we're their biggest customers of car cars imported from the U.S. to around the world. Canadian dealers are the #1 seller of U.S. cars outside of the United States. And so really they're shooting themselves in the foot if they design programs that make it harder for manufacturers that are manufacturing in the U.S., not all of which whom are American, are punished to come into the Canadian market. So we think it's important that we talk some sense into the U.S. administration.
Huw Williams is the national spokesperson for the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association. Thank you so much.